What is primary is how the Church understood Jesus as Savior through his suffering, death, and rising. The Transfiguration is a most mysterious episode in the life of Jesus and shared with just three of his closest friends, Peter, James, and John. Jesus takes these three disciples up a high mountain, traditionally Mount Tabor in Galilee. Symbolically, however, the mountain is the place where God encounters God in all his majesty, as at Sinai or as in the Sermon of the Mount. This is its significance here. What happens is the unexpected. Jesus' face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Thus was the face of Moses after his Sinai revelation, which obliged Moses to veil his face. Two figures appeared with Jesus, symbols of the law and the prophets, Moses and Elisha, who conversed with Jesus about what was going to befall him in Jerusalem. The disciples are too stunned for words, and Peter babbles on and on about making 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. All at once, a bright cloud overshadowed them, again a symbol of God's overwhelming presence. And a voice from the cloud calls, "This is my Son, my beloved, listen to him." The disciples are overcome with awe and faint, and when they come to later, all they see is Jesus alone, who tells them not to be afraid. A host of questions assail us. Did this event really take place? What did it mean? What did this event do to the understanding of the three disciples about who Jesus really was? Like the baptism of Jesus in the Jordan, with which this passage shares similarities, we may say that this is a passage whose importance lies more in its meaning than in its actuality. The position of this Transfiguration story, after the confession of Peter and the prediction of the Passion, makes it an affirmation of the Messiahship of Jesus and of the messianic glory in which he will be revealed. Jesus is no less Messiah even when his glory is hidden and disfigured in the Passion. Nay, the words from the cloud are the very words of Yahweh through the prophet Isaiah, presenting his suffering servant, the one through whose wounds we are healed. The story of the Transfiguration tells us graphically that in the Bible, what is described is not half as important as why it is described. Factual history is secondary. What is primary is the symbols of faith, namely, how the disciples and later the Church understood Jesus as Savior through his suffering, death, and rising.